When Irish eyes are smiling, you know we're getting close to St. Patrick's Day. And one of Ireland's finest crossover tenors is in Las Vegas to celebrate on stage. My guest, Paul Byram, he's performing in Myron's at the Smith Center Sunday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, of course, at 7 p.m. For ticket information, go to thesmithcenter.com. And for everything about Paul, go to paulbyram.ie and follow him on Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. And Paul, welcome back to the show.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks. I was checking, and it was 5 years ago when you were on the show last.
Yeah,
it seems like yeah. Go ahead.
It's quite remarkable. I mean, 5 years, and what a 5 years it has been. I mean, between COVID and between recording albums and touring, it's just kind of flown by. So I find it quite remarkable that it's been 5 years. But that's life, I suppose. It flies by.
In the meantime, I lost my Irish accent, so I'll have to start from number one. So anyway,
some might say that's not a bad thing. Yeah.
Before we talk about your upcoming performance at the Smith Center, your newest album, your latest album, is called By Contrast, and there's a reason it's called that. You've produced many albums, but the reason that it's called By Contrast is because it's acoustic. Am I correct?
Yeah, primarily. This is my 8th studio album, and prior to that, I suppose most of the albums I've done have had large orchestras, and the one preceding that was an album called What I Did for Love, and that had a 66-piece orchestra on it. And so when I went and did this album, there was only 5 musicians. I called in 5 of my closest friends in the business to perform on the album. So like there's pipes, there's whistles. He the same guy does the pipes and whistles, and they're sprinkled throughout the album. And then it's mainly piano, bass, and guitar on the album. So it's a very stripped back kind of acoustic album, as you said yourself, and full of kind of some of my favorite ballads and songs that I felt suited that kind of style of music, or that ensemble of musicians. So when I was trying to think of an album, I thought, God, this is totally contrasting to everything I've done before. And I thought, contrast. Well, hold on. So Paul Byram by contrast. Yeah. So there we go. So yeah, it is. It's a funny one. And like as I said, all previous albums that I like, for example, the Velvet album had 55-piece orchestra on it. This is the Moment album had 70 musicians on it. And obviously these cost a fortune, and the industry has changed so much in recent times, and it's changed because it had to, in that people aren't buying CDs as much. They're not going to record stores as much as they used to. They're downloading everything or listening to it all for free, and so therefore you have to kind of, I suppose, change with the times, and the likes of putting out those big albums with the big orchestras. They still cost. The one thing that hasn't changed is the cost, and so you kind of had to, or I've had to kind of reconsider that a bit somewhat, and so when I put out By Contrast, I didn't know how it would be received, primarily because all my following up until this point would have been used to the big lush strings and all that kind of stuff. So I'm delighted to say that since it's been released, it is going toe to toe with all the album sales previously. So I'm delighted with it. The reaction has been great.
And for information about that album and all his other albums, you go to paulbyram.ie, which I assume stands for Ireland.
That's the Irish handle. Yeah, I mean, I did have paulbyram.com, but I like the IE because it's just a little bit more Irish.
Yeah, it's right to your roots. I was thinking about how often you come to the United States. I know you've been performing in St. Patrick's Day in Las Vegas, but do you get a chance to come and perform on a regular basis each year besides St. Patrick's Day?
Yeah, for sure I do. Yeah, I mean, so like obviously, I always joke, if you're an Irish tenor and you're not working in America around St. Patrick's Day, there's something very wrong with you. You need to look at what you're doing wrong. So we're kind of, thankfully, we're very welcomed, especially around March, St. Patrick's Day in America. But I do tour quite a bit throughout the year. Like I did my first Christmas tour in a number of years, just this Christmas gone. And that was so much fun because normally for the last 6 years, I've been doing a musical theatre here in Ireland around Christmas time or the lead up to Christmas. And this year I kind of just wanted to take a break from it. It was like a very full-on schedule when you're doing those shows. You know, you're set 6 days a week, 8 shows a week, and it's full on. And so I went out on tour instead, and I thought, okay, let's see if people want to hear me sing Christmas stuff. And it sold really well. It was great. The reaction was great. And I think about the thing about Christmas shows are everybody's in great form. You know, everybody's kind of excited for Christmas, and the vibe is always great before you even get onto the stage. So I really enjoyed that. I get out in March. I'll come back out perhaps for a handful more gigs in July, and then again I'll probably do Christmas again. I used to do longer tours, maybe once or twice a year, whereas now maybe I'm getting older, wiser. I don't know. I'm kind of I'm kind of dipping in, dipping out. Like so, this tour, for example, I'm even reluctant to call it a tour. It's like 4 concerts I'm coming over for in March, a bit of promo stuff, um, and it makes it just easier. It makes it less draining. I mean, I'm a one man show pretty much, you know. Like I obviously have musicians I collaborate with along the way, but it can be pretty full on when you're traveling on your own for long periods of time. So I've kind of just changed tact a bit, you know, and I make no apology for it. I kind of like it. I like kind of dipping in and dipping out and doing a few gigs and leaving, coming in fresh and leaving fresh. That's the goal, you know.
You probably feel the jet lag a little bit more these days too.
Well, certainly when I come home, yeah. But I find that if you come the day you come home to Ireland, I think jet lag is more intense coming this direction. Um, and I find that if you just go out and drink a whole load of Guinness, you'll fall asleep pretty easy and solid through the night. So that's my tact when I get home each time, you know.
You mentioned about traveling alone, and I can understand what you're saying, but I'm starting a rumor that you're traveling with the 36-piece Leprechaun band. So, you know, just
Well, look, you know, if that sells tickets, I'm happy to play along. You know, it's one of those things that, yeah, I've had to change and evolve with time. You know, and I always love having out now. For example, the Vegas gig, I have a lovely musician joining me, a guy called Dermot Kiernan. He's also from Ireland. He's going to play the piano. He's going to play guitar, and it's such a lovely, lovely setting there at Myron's. So I do enjoy. I'm quite selective as well as to who I work with. Again, as you get older, you can choose that little bit more who you want to work with.
exactly. Well, it's not like you're starting from scratch. You're an established artist. You've been since you were a kid. I mean, so it's not like you definitely are entitled to modify your performance schedule and how you do things. So yeah.
I think you just have to evolve. I mean, I think and you'll find that if you talk to an awful lot of singers and musicians now, you know, we all have to evolve because the industry is evolving all the time, you know, and everything is becoming social. I mean, look at us now. We're doing a social, you know, media interview, which 5 years ago we wouldn't have even contemplated. So it's changing at a rapid rate, and I think you kind of need to keep on top of the curve and keep changing and keep evolving. And you know, there are gigs that I do just myself on the backing tracks from the albums, and I remember doing that for the first time. Kind of, I was having palpitations, going, "Oh my God, people are going to be so angry. People are going to not want to do the." And you know, the truth of the matter, it became very real. It was because the tracks are so rich, and there are obviously from the albums with live musicians, people didn't mind at all. They're there to see me. Do you know what I mean? And hear me sing, and the live performance was happening in front of them, and so, you know, you just have to cut your cloth accordingly, you know, and that's, you know, in order to survive, you do what you need to do.
I wonder if the word rather than evolve is adapt, because as the
Mm.
world evolves and technology evolves, the artist adapts to the evolution of technology and
Yeah,
how it's delivered.
yeah, I would think you're probably right. Adapt is definitely a better word. And look, you know, I did my first professional engagement. I was cast as the lead in an opera called Amal and the Night Visitors, where the lead role was a little boy, and it was an opera based in it was being staged in Dublin. I was 12 years of age at the time, and I released my first album at 14.
The golden
So
voice of Paul Byram.
that's right. And like that's 30 years ago this year. So
Amazing.
yeah, so like I get a great sense of pride in the fact that I'm still going, you know, and adapting as I go.
Well, you look like you're in good shape. Those who are just listening can't see you, but the ones that are watching us can see that you look like you're physically fit.
Well, I do. I enjoy fitness. It's a big part of my life. I think you have to be. I think you're traipsing around the country. America is a big, big country. Um, and you're taking flights, you're driving, you're renting cars, you're maybe taking trains, all trains, planes, and automobiles. And you need to be fit. And more than anything else, fitness I find is great for the head, keeping my sanity and taking for that hour or so that I go to the gym every day. I don't think about the singing or the music or what ticket sales are like or what album sales are like or what I need to do. And so it is a huge part of my life, and also again, the modern world that we're living in. People, it's in some respects it's sad to say. I think people they expect you to look well when you come on stage. There was a time where you could get away with maybe a big pot belly and just rock out on stage and sing your song. Whereas I think people now want to see you making an effort and looking kind of relatively sharp.
Wait a minute. So let me figure the math on this. So 5 pints of Guinness and versus an hour in the gym. Is that right? Is that the way it
yeah,
works?
but it's like, here's the thing. There has to be wiggle room. If you're telling me that I can't drink Guinness, then we rearrange everything.
Understood.
Everything's good in moderation.
Yes, exactly. Or maybe you could, while you're working out, instead of drinking water while you're working out, you're drinking Guinness. So you can
Well,
work it that way too.
what they say, Guinness is good for you. So it's full of iron and wheat, and so yeah, it's good for me. I tell myself anyway.
You mentioned, Paul, that your appearances and performances in the United States, and one of the things you do, I don't know how often you do it, but I know you do it. You perform the national anthem, for example, for the Boston Celtics, among other teams. That must be fun too, because it's a totally different vibe than when you're performing on stage, such as in Las Vegas.
Yeah, look, so I remember years ago, God, it's 10 years, maybe longer, that I've been singing for the Boston Celtics. And whenever I'm in town, I drop them an email and they always host me, which is lovely. And it's a most nerve-wracking experience as well, because firstly, you're singing another country's anthem. So, I take that very seriously as an honor. I feel at times, without getting political or without getting bogged down in it, I feel at times some people don't respect performance of anthems as much as they should, and so I sing it as it's written, and I sing it with gusto, and I sing it with as much passion as I can muster, and especially in Boston. I mean, I'm sure you've been to Boston many times. They're a big sporting town, and you walk out into TD Garden and they announce you, Paul Byron from Ireland. They all cheer because Boston is an extension of Ireland.
Yeah,
And
Boston
they all
Irish.
cheer. Yeah, so you're already in the good books. And but then the lights drop and a spotlight comes on you, and your heart goes a million miles an hour. And you sing it, and the reaction is always phenomenal. I love singing it. It's a great anthem. It's a great anthem. And I do it a cappella, and it's always been received quite well. And I think primarily because I just sing it as it's written. I don't try anything fancy or weird or new or different, and I certainly don't mess up the words. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, which means never a Guinness before, but certainly after.
Oh, there's a few after for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm going to switch gears and ask you a question that I'm intrigued by, because our audience may not recognize the name, but Dr. Veronica Dunn, you studied under her. Who is she, and why did she have an influence on you?
Well, so Veronica was she was a professor of music in Dublin, a well-renowned music teacher. But prior to that, she was a well-renowned European star as an opera singer, and so she would have worked with an awful lot of some of the top tenors and sopranos that have ever come out of Ireland. For some of your listeners, they might know of the three Irish tenors, so like Finbar Wright, Ronan Tynan, and Anthony Kearns. She trained all of those guys, and so she was extremely well renowned, and I was a young lad starting out as a tenor. So I had done classical training as a young boy, from the age of 7 up until the voice changed at about 15, 16 years of age. And then I took a year off and I started up in the Royal Irish Academy of Music. And I was working with a trainer at the time. And one of the things that's quite important, especially when you're working intensely on your voice, and music, it's very important that you have a nice relationship with your singing teacher, and that you connect on more than one level.
So you
Um,
dated, in other words.
Sorry?
So you
No,
dated.
no, no, absolutely not. No, no. Veronica would have been an elderly lady by the time she got her hands on me. So, yeah, I remember she just stopped me in the corridor. She'd heard me at a couple of recitals and stuff, and and she was just very, she didn't take herself too seriously, and she didn't, what's the word? She didn't mix her words, so, or mince her words. And so those are two things that I would consider myself to be. And we clicked very quickly, and she took me under her wing, and you know taught me a whole lot, really a whole lot of stuff. She wanted me really to do opera. If truth be told, she wanted me to kind of focus on that and perhaps move to Germany, to study it over there. But although I love singing arias and I love singing classical music, my personality is very much musical theatre and crossover, and I love bringing that classical style of singing to mainstream music, but also getting to do the musical theatre. I also love the Irish music, and being the Irish tenor, so to speak. So I was always kind of leaning more toward commercial recordings and performances than opera. And opera would have been a very, very challenging path to take, and an extremely difficult path to take. I mean, people, I don't think, realize the levels that you need to go to in order to become, a leading tenor in the world of opera. I mean, there's very few Guinnesses had anyway. I know that.
It's probably easier being a lawyer than the
Yeah, yeah,
opposite.
yeah. Like, and that's the thing. Like, you look at doctors and lawyers, and they study for 7 years, maybe 6, 7 years to become a practicing doctor or a lawyer. An opera singer is doing it for much longer than that before they get their first lead role. So,
Amazing.
often, yeah, often people don't realize that. Or if you, I know, for example, we always joke amongst ourselves as singers. When you quote your fee, and people go, "Oh, for God's sake, that's very expensive." You're only singing a few songs. Well, I had to spend maybe 10 years of my life learning how to sing that song correctly. So,
Right.
yeah, sometimes people don't realize the levels that you have to go to in order to do the classical kind of singing.
I asked you a question 5 years ago, I believe, and I always like to bring it back because we always struggle with this in America. Is it Celtic or Celtic?
It's $1 million question, and I don't really have an answer for you. So, in some terms, it's Celtic, and in other terms, it's Celtic. So, I have found that when it's related to a sports team, it's Celtic. So,
Yes,
like the
Boston
Boston
Celtics,
Celtics
right.
or the Glasgow Celtic in soccer, their soccer team in Glasgow, they're the Celtics. Whereas you're talking about the Celts, and the Celtic people, never, the Celts, or never the Celtic people. It's the Celts. So I think when it comes to sports terms, the only time I've ever heard it referred to as Celtic is when it's associated to a sports team. The rest of the time, it's Celtic, and that's my understanding.
Okay, so it's Celtic Thunder.
Oh yeah, 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 for sure. And I have no reason why. I have no answer for you as to why that.
Well, you were one of the founding members of Celtic Thunder, and you've obviously succeeded very well in the solo field. I'll call it solo field. Clearly, you work with musicians, and
Yeah.
again, the 36-piece Leprechaun band. But you're still in essence a solo artist, I guess I would say. And when you plan performances, and I want to talk to you about your performance here at Myron's at the Smithson in a moment. But when you plan your performances, is it planned when you're traveling, not when you're recording or in a major concert at home, but when you're traveling, it's going to be you and a couple of musicians. Do you plan it out so it's a different approach than what you would if you did have a large orchestra or a band?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're doing, like, I have a series of concerts here now in May in Ireland. that will have a large piece band, and I would pick the songs for that show based on the arrangements I have, and the music that you have, because every song you sing, you have to make sure you've got the parts for every musician playing. So that limits you a little bit with regards to what you can perform on any given night. Whereas when you're performing with just one or two musicians, your repertoire is a lot larger. So yeah, you do have to alter it, I suppose, as you go. And also, I think the pleasure of touring on my own is that I can do a set list. For example, I'm starting this upcoming series of dates in Pittsburgh on the 9th, and by the time I get to Myron's on the 17th, the set list could be completely different. I might just be not feeling a certain song, or I think it's been overdone, or the reaction isn't as good as I thought it might be. Or people will say, "Oh, I wish you'd sing You Raise Me Up," or "I wish you'd sing Danny Boy," whatever. And so, you sometimes you just evolve with it as you go on the tour, and it also keeps it interesting for me.
Sure.
Like there might be nights where I'm feeling this crowd is great crack, and we'll throw in a couple more upbeat, fun kind of songs. And then there's other nights where they're a lot more conservative. If you're doing church concerts, for example, you'll often find that the audience, although they may not be conservative, they may just feel that they're a little bit, or they should be a little bit more refined or whatever.
Or traditional, even for that matter.
Yeah, and you kind of find that I'd cut back certain songs that I would have normally done in a concert setting. So yeah, I do evolve, and you kind of have to. And as I said, when I was with Celtic Thunder, we would have done in the initial tours, we were doing like kind of 80 odd concerts a tour, and it was the set list. It was set in stone. There was no talking between songs. There was nothing. It was a show, and at times it kind of, in many respects, it was great because you didn't have to worry about anything. You knew your words inside out. You came on, you went off. You were kind of just robotic, and there was no talking, as I said. But me being me, I love telling the stories in between the songs, and I love kind of having an interaction with the audience, and I like kind of showing my personality, and for better or worse. And I think,
well, no, it's better, but I think what you're saying is there's more two-way communication the way you're doing it now than when it was more formalized under Celtic Thunder in that sense.
No question about it. Like, I have great banter with my audiences now, and I've built up like what I would call friendships with some of the people that come to a lot of the concerts, and I've got to know a lot of them, and the shtick that I have with them on the stage is great, and I love that. The Irish people, by and large, we don't take ourselves too seriously. We love taking the mick, we call it,
Yes.
making fun of ourselves or making fun of others, and we always take fun of ourselves before we make fun of other people, and that banter on stage is always there. And the day that I'm told to rein that in is the day I'll walk away, because I love it. I really do. I enjoy a live audience.
Do you ever check to see on a rough scale, because you're popular, obviously, beyond Ireland, do you ever check with an audience to see what percentage, or just do an informal count in your head, what you think might be the percentage of Irish people versus everybody else in the audience? Is there usually is there a 25% Irish and 75% everybody else, or 50-50, or does it?
Yeah, well, when you say Irish, do you mean like Irish Americans?
Either Irish Americans or Irish, yeah. So either one.
Yeah. Well, primarily, like when I do a concert, I always throw out a question: who here has a bit of Irish? Who here doesn't have a bit of Irish in them? That's the easier question.
Yes,
and
you're right.
Maybe 3 or 4 will put up their hand. They'll claim that they haven't any Irish in them, and I'll say, well, you just haven't looked deep enough, because everybody's got a bit in them, whereas the actual, what I would call off the boat Irish, the people that are literally Irish, they're very rare at the concerts in the US. But yeah, most people coming to the shows are of Irish descent, and as I said, by the time people are leaving, they all feel a little bit Irish, and that's the idea. My shows are predominantly Irish material, but I sprinkle a whole lot of other stuff in there as well. As I say on the stage, if you don't like this song, it's like a bus. Just stand and wait. There'll be another one along in 3.5 minutes, and it'll be totally different.
Unless there's a bus strike, then you got a problem.
Well, that's a whole other kettle of fish. But yeah, I try and keep it interesting and varied, and I like to say that it's a show for all ages. It should appeal to everybody and anybody. And it's a personable show. Like as I said, all the songs I sing, there's a reason I sing them. They're not just songs that I like, and there's often a good story behind the songs I sing. So I try and bring that to the table. We love telling stories, the Irish, and I think we as a people are loved because we tell stories,
Mhm.
and we talk and whatever else. So I like to bring a bit of both of that to the shows. That's why I call the shows songs and stories.
When you come to Las Vegas to Myron's at the Smith Center again on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, are you setting it up so you have perhaps 3 to 4 songs that you definitely are going to do versus all the wide inventory of songs you have? In other words, in your mind, you're definitely going to do these 4 songs, whatever those 4 songs are.
Yeah. You'd always have to have God Almighty. If I came to America and didn't sing Danny Boy at some point in the show, I possibly wouldn't get off the country, or I wouldn't get backward. So there's certain songs you kind of have to have in there, of course. Most of my set list is set in stone by the time by the time I'm getting on the plane. And I'll always have 1 or 2 or 3 songs that I might change in and change out. But yeah, I mean, like the Vegas thing is an interesting one. I remember getting booked for it first time, and I thought to myself, mother of gosh, of all the shows that are going on in Vegas and all the big superstars coming in and out of the place, nobody's going to turn up to see me. And I remember I arrived for the first concert, and I was collected from the airport by the theater, and I kind of sheepishly said, "Look, how many have we sold? Have we sold any tickets for tonight?" I'm like, "Sorry," I said, "Have we sold any?" And it was sold out. I couldn't believe it. And every time I've come, there's been a huge audience there. And I kind of pinch myself sometimes. I'm like, I'm doing Vegas. This little Paddy from Ireland is coming over. Of all the people, and in amongst them all, there's this little fella called Paul Byram doing a small little concert in Las Vegas, and I get a great kick out of it. I really do. It's quite funny. And then afterwards, I go walkabout. After so my fiance is coming over for the gig,
Nice.
and and so we'll go for a few drinks after, because it'll be the last of the shows. And we walk around. I often find I'm walking with my mouth open at some of the things I see. You know, it's the wildest place in the world, and it's the greatest place in the world. I just love it. It's great. It's just great.
No, that's great. And before I let you go, one quick question, and that is your favorite song, if I had to nail you down to your favorite song.
Oi, it depends on the genre. I think that's the first thing to say. Like for example, I'm singing at somebody's funeral tomorrow morning in Dublin, and I'm singing Schubert's Ave Maria. I love that song, right? It suits that setting. But I do get it for the fun song. I sing a song called "Those Were the Days," my friends.
Mhm.
Great fun, gets the crowd going. But nothing really beats Danny Boy. I get great pride in singing Danny Boy. Some people love it, some people loathe it. I love it. I think it's a prayer from Ireland. It's the final words a father says to a son before he leaves Ireland, knowing that he'll never see him again. There's something very powerful about that. And I think it strikes a chord with a lot of Americans, because they know of their grandparents or their great grandparents that came over and were to never return. And there's when I even think about it, it puts hairs on my neck. The thoughts of never returning to Ireland, or never returning to your home, wherever that might be, is extremely powerful and often heartbreaking. I mean, if we were to consider you were from, let's say you were from Nevada, and you were told, look, there's nothing here for you. You have to leave and go somewhere to Europe for the rest of your life, and you're never going to see your family and friends again. That you have to go to survive. I mean, that comprehension behind that is sometimes hard to do. So, and Danny Boy encapsulates that, and I think a lot of Irish came to America and worked hard, and contributed and made a name for themselves, and they were a part of what makes America great. And so there's a great sense of pride in that, and I get great pride singing it.
Well, that's a great way to leave it. My guest has been Paul Byram. He's performing in Myron's at the Smith Center Sunday, March 17th at 7 p.m. For ticket information, go to thesmithcenter.com. And for everything about Paul Byram, go to paulbyram.ie. That's IE. And follow him on Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. And Paul, thanks for being on the show.
It's been an absolute pleasure as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you next time.